We are live, my friend.
Oh yeah. Joe, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm well. A little rainy here today
Yep.
in upstate Western New York, but
Okay.
you know, what just another day here. So, and you know
Yeah.
what? Halloween coming up, so I'm okay with it. How about you, man?
I'm doing good. Have you ever dressed up for Halloween?
I have,
Yeah.
yes. I have dressed up for Halloween, and I'm also dressing up for Halloween this year.
Okay. All
Um,
right.
yeah.
Yeah. One year I did Steve Harvey, so I can never beat that costume. So I won't ever try.
Look,
But
I'll be honest with you. My best thing that I do if I'm really really just need to do something quick, and it's the stupidest, most cliche thing, but I just take a coffee mug, and I go to a party and I go, I am a cup of Joe. And that's all I need to do.
it's a light way to do it. I like that, man. Well, I'm glad we are able to do another episode of the evolution of engagement. This is our October episode, man. I burned man hand rub a little bit. I'm excited because this one's going to be special. We have some amazing guests today. We're fortunate enough to bring on some amazing people to our show. But as we look ahead, we have November and December. I know we're going to be brewing it up because we have some great things to come. But October's been really good. And as we've gotten to this point, I think it's important to just highlight the journey of the evolution of engagement and continuing to build the community around the event marketing space. And I think that's what this whole conversation is always about. And this show is to always recognize the people that are attached to event marketing and really touch all the spaces there.
I agree. I think with this being almost close to that 1 year anniversary when we started this in December of last year, I think it was important for us to obviously keep that momentum going, and that's why we do have a couple guests today, because I think it was really important for us to just kind of dive into more of the intricacies of our industry. I know you and I like to kind of recap different activations and things going on, and
Yeah, yeah.
uh, you know, honestly, there's just been so much going on. There's so many events and so many activations always happening. Sometimes it's actually hard to keep up. And
Yeah.
one of the things like coming up this year, or next in November, is Complex Con, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
they moved it over to Las Vegas, and I think it's going to be pretty interesting to kind of see how it turns out.
I think Complex Con is going to be one of their biggest that they've done in a very long time. And I think that they are doing really well with how they're tying in the Travis Scott play as and kind of creating that excitement there. And I think a lot of brands are going to show up there this year. So I'm expecting it to be something we're going to be paying attention to on LinkedIn. We're going to see a lot of people tapping in and going there this year.
Well, I've always loved the partnerships that brands will do and then have an activation there. So I remember going back, geez, this was 2021, and I still have the Tims I bought there. They were a
Yeah.
special edition Timberland with Ralph Lauren, and the activation itself was like it was almost like an Apple concept of like you could walk into like the booth space, and it was like really clean, and you'd see the product obviously displayed everywhere, but that was the draw for me, was to like, all right, I want one of these. I didn't care how much they were, which I probably should have.
I got it. I gotta have them. I mean, that goes back to how we always talk about like what are the super keys to event marketing? What are people tying to? Are they tying to nostalgia? Are they tying to exclusivity?
Yeah.
What are these different senses that allow them to be excited to see a brand and want to participate and engage with them? And like you said, that was something you wanted, and it definitely drove that excitement for you. So shout out to everyone who's joined so far. We are excited to have you again as we get ready for our guests to come on here shortly. We wanted to shout out to all the cities that you represent, wherever you're from, and we want to highlight those as well. Again, if you have questions, you'll be able to drop those in the chat as we go throughout the conversation today. But again, welcome to another episode of Evolution of Engagement. Um, as we think about some of the things that are going on in the industry, the NBA is back. But one thing they kicked off the NBA with, and this is what I love about brands, is you see everybody taking the big swings to see who's going to come out with the toughest commercial, who's going to go the hardest. And we saw LeBron and Bronny historical moment, and they did the commercial where LeBron poured all of the cereal in the car that Bronny was supposed to drive to the game, kind of like a rookie thing, but they turned it into a Nike commercial. So, and then you turn around like 2 hours later, Adidas drops a commercial with Ant Edwards, and he like is taking a lie detector test and basically saying he's the best in the NBA. You know, to build that storyline around the NBA and the hype, they're doing really well. So Nike and Adidas are definitely battling it out on the basketball side this year, so we can see it through some of how they're parting through their talent this year.
It's I love it. Like I love when obviously the sports season comes up, and then there's obviously activations and different campaigns that tie in these
Yeah.
interactive or moments. I even have something from my own hometown of like just a friend of mine, and she runs like kind of this like influencing thing from Buffalo and traveling around to the different games for the Bills games and having like a game day experience. And it's been really kind of cool to watch her on social, but then she's posting on LinkedIn more because it's bleeding into the professionalism of like, oh my God, this is an event, this is experiential, this is brand, moments. And uh, obviously within the NFL, there's just so many of those moments happening every Sunday, every week, and it'll all culminate into the Super Bowl, which I'm sure will be its own thing too. So
It will. It will. And I want to give a shout out to Brandon from Asheville, North Carolina, Mark Taylor from ATL, represent. So thank you all for joining us. We have a couple more minutes before we bring our guest on. One thing I did want to touch on is the WNBA. The season just ended, and the New York Liberty, they leaned in on their partnership with not only the Nike side of it, but also with just the content they were putting out, right? Like they turned every piece really leaned into New York. They kind of CGI'd the Statue of Liberty to have on the ring. They did different what do you call it? Projection mapping on different buildings. They did a lot of stuff. Talk about that. Like, what do you think is really key for? How do you think projection mapping and kind of CGI? Do you think those are just other ways that brands can activate and build some equity in culture?
I mean, that's a wonderful question, honestly, because I still always thought that like when you can integrate tech into some type of campaign or something. I mean, I don't know if you've been seeing that thing that was going around on. I mean, it was clearly AI generated, but that thing that was going on with like the Statue of Liberty getting covered in like a ghost. It was
I
like
saw that. Yeah,
and I had a lot of people be like, "Oh my God, did you see what they did in New York?" I'm like, "That
yeah,
ain't real," but it was it it was
yeah.
really cool to see that because I'm like that. I mean, can go on the border of like, hey, it's too real, but it's fascinating to see that what can be done through AI or digital tech or any type of
Right.
augmented or VR kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think like that was one that stood out to me. So I really am excited about how those technology pieces are being brought into marketing and branding, and how brands can see that a part of their sponsorships in the future, and that being a way they can showcase their campaign. So super excited about that.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming to that time. Shout out to again everyone who has joined. This is the evolution of engagement. Really, our show is tied to the event marketing space. So, from brand ambassador companies to designers to people that work on the account side to creative to the fabrication houses, this is all a place for that. And so, again, if you see people in the chat, say what's up. If you're in the chat, don't be afraid to connect. But the moment we've been waiting for, we're going to bring our guest on. This is
You want me to do the lovely introductions, Marcus?
this is a light introduction. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, but I am going to bring our guest on, and we have Jeff Fortmann in the building, as well as Tavar James in the building as well. And so, again, We welcome them to the evolution of engagement. This is our second time having guests on here, so me and Joe are really excited.
This is actually a very exciting one. I mean, I had a close friend of mine, Kim True, and she was our first guest, and she did amazing. But I knew when we wanted to talk and bring more people on, I was like, who are two people that I honestly haven't known for a very long time, but know that I've had such deep, meaningful conversations with them that I wanted to bring them on because they also understand the elements of like emotional storytelling and experiential. So that probably boosts their ego right now. So I'm going to easily just say hello, Jeff, and hello, Tavar. And please introduce you guys.
Tavar, you're on, man. You're on. What's up, boys?
Tavar James. I'm vice president at Boom Pop. I've been in the events industry for about 15 plus years. I've worked across multiple sectors from financial services to tech. Yeah, happy to be here. Happy to have this conversation. Happy for a little rumble. I'll leave it at that. I don't think this needs to be long and drawn out.
Yeah, this is great, guys. Thanks for the invite. This is like, I feel like I'm on like Smartlist or something like that, where the reveal came with the guest and stuff. So no, it's awesome. I appreciate it. Jeff Fortmann here. I'm with Brand Innovators, and the group that you guys circle around is fun. I'm actually sitting in the offices of Roku headquarters today. We have a trade marketing summit going down the hall. I literally am walking down the hall to find this room, and I'm looking in the rooms, and there's Diana Frost from Kraft Heinz, Todd Kaplan. They're speaking later today with us. I've got friend Judy is from Pinterest is here, Joe. So she's hanging out with us. So there's a lot of friends and family in the building that I'm in right now. Just background on me, I was spent 14 years with Event Marketer, spent a couple of years during COVID and right before COVID with our friends over at Highmark Tech, building and fabricating structures for the experiential industry, which was a lot of fun until that moment in COVID history. And then I found friends here at Brand Innovators over the last 3 years. And it's just a fantastic community of senior level brand marketers across every vertical in the marketing mix. Obviously, I love to lean in on the experiential and events side. So thank you for having us on board.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a pleasure to have you both. And I know Marcus and I really love to kind of have almost improv conversations on this. It's a talk shop kind of place. But when we asked you both to join, I think what was really fascinating is having both of you guys kind of circumnavigate this theme or this topic of return on relationships, or return on what that community is like. And that is the topic at hand that we wanted to touch on within our space, because you guys are both on different kind of areas of the space of experiential and events. But I'd love to kind of understand a little bit more on what you think return on relationship means and how you would actually kind of see it evolving over the course of like the last few years and where it's going to.
All right. So I'll jump in first, and then we'll just have that conversation. And Tavar and I were chatting yesterday, and you guys and stuff. So I will first, the credit to my good friend, Ted Rubin, who coined the term return on relationship. And if you think about it, what is return on investment, right? Return on investment is the dollars and cents of that. But if you think about return on relationship and like, I'm cheating on my notes here, but that value of a person or a brand on creating that relationship is really strong. And I'm a big believer in using that muscle that you use for relationship building. And if you use that muscle more and more, just like working out, it gets stronger. So if you use that relationship muscle, that networking muscle, and there's a difference between networking and relationship building, I think. But if you use that muscle more, your relationships become more valuable. But it has to be mutually benefiting. And that's a big, I'm a big believer of karma and all that stuff. But if you create mutually benefiting relationships and use that muscle, then that return on relationship comes into play. And I can actually, from examples with you guys, Joe and Marcus, right? Marcus, we were just two dudes sitting in COVID at home in 2020,
Right.
and we created a relationship that it was mutually beneficial, but there was no agenda to it.
Yeah.
And look at us 3 years later. And that's where, I just love creating community, creating a relationship, and then the value, and then pulling value out of that. That is, again, mutually beneficial for both.
Yeah. If I can add, I think networking is the act of going about scoping the industry to find people to build relationships with, right? So networking is the act, relationships is what you want to get out of that act. And I think a common mistake that I've seen us make in the industry, probably more recently coming out of COVID, because I think everybody's just been like, yeah, now I got to build my network again. Let's go. And I think that we have to remember that relationships take time, just like when you're dating, just like when you marry someone, just like with your family, it takes time, right? And so what I've unfortunately experienced coming out of COVID is, yes, it's been this like mad dash to network and build relationships, but I feel like some people have gone about it in a very, very like aggressive way. And I think that I want to remind people that when you're building relationships with someone, you want to go about it in a way where it's amicable and it's comfortable for both parties. And you can't always go into building a relationship with this mindset of gimme, or I want one,
Totally.
right? Which I think a lot of people do. Like, I'll be totally honest with you. Joe and I had built a relationship through networking. We finally built a relationship over like the past 2 years. And we've referred business and we've referred things to one another, but he and I have not done business together yet. Let's be fair. Like, he and I have not like signed a contract or done business together, and that's okay, right? It hasn't severed the relationship. It hasn't changed the relationship, because we know that at some point in the relationship that will come. And we know that there's more to the relationship than how much revenue or how much business we can exchange. So I just want to remind people that like, there's levels to this shit. Like, you don't have to go into things like just
network gives you the reach, right? And there's another thing Ted told me. He's like, network gives you the reach, but the relationship gives you the community, or the community gives you the relationship, right? Yeah. And there's power in the relationship. There's not much power in the networking. That's what gets the ball rolling. And in fact, even over the course of my 3 years here at Brand Innovators, and Joe's heard this, and Mark, like, we've created a really strong community here. And when I'm talking to partners that are interested in coming in and sponsoring, we go, look, you're coming in to create a relationship with our community, not to sell them anything. We coach, don't sell anything. Just come in and create the relationship, and then the business you're going to follow up. You're going to do what you do. And it's been very successful for our clubhouse that we like to call here at Brand Innovators.
I just want to say, I mean, that was music to my ears to hear both of you guys say that, because I've never found that if I went for a relationship, like a friend or romantic partner or anything, that first and foremost I go up to them and said, well, what's going to be the transaction that comes out of this? Like that just feels obviously not right and inauthentic by all means. And so that's why it's like, I've always just thought that this is a great way to connect with people. And then Wall Street Journal came out with an article just recently. I posted it because I thought it was important that it highlighted connecting as opposed to just networking. Like, go to network, please network. That's what you should do when you get right out of college, and network everywhere you possibly can. But realize like connecting is actually having a genuine relationship with someone else without the intent that you're going to get something out of it. You're just supposed to have a relationship. So,
and I've taken the time to like pair my personality with my true objectives of what I want to get out of building relationships with people, right? Like return on objectives, not necessarily return on investment, but like what am I really trying to get out of these relationships that I'm building within the industry? And I match that with my personality, right? Because if you are someone that expects a lot out of your relationships with the industry, you expect the people that you reach out to always be available and always be ready to give back and always be ready to attend this dinner and attend that reception. And if they say no, it's you look at that funny, you start treating them differently, you put them on a blacklist. Like if that's your approach to relationship, that doesn't match with my personality, so I'm not even going to go there with you. Like, nice to meet you, happy to make the connection, see you later. But if you are more so aligned with my personality, where it's like, hey, listen, I want to build this relationship, but there are going to be days where I'm going to have to cancel that dinner. There are going to be days where I'm going to miss that call. There might be days where I need to really lean into you, and there's going to be days where you might not hear from me. If that's an okay relationship with you, let's make fire. So I encourage people to like understand your personality, and then understand the type of the objectives you want to get out of these relationships, and make sure that they marry, because then that's when you run into conflict with people that you thought you had a great relationship with when you really don't, because there's just a mismatch.
So I want to sit on that real quick, and I kind of want you to repeat it so I can drop it as a slide. I love y'all see me pressing all the buttons. Hey, I love that part. So you said understanding your personality, just because I want to make sure we have key takeaways for the audience, is understanding your personality helps you define what type of relationship you want to have, or is it understanding your personality allows you to manage what type of person you're going to connect with? Is it both?
I think it's both. I think it's so I literally write it down, right? So I know my personality, but what I do is I write down my objectives of what I want to get out of industry relationships, right? Okay. And then as I'm navigating the industry and I find people that I build relationships with, I take into account my personality and their personality, and I ask myself, will our personalities produce the best relationship it possibly can produce, or will it instead create conflict and negative energy and weirdness? I'll be honest with you. I when I was at IMEX, I walked past someone who invited me to do a podcast with them. Yeah. And our energies were not the same. And you felt it when we did the podcast, right? It never made it to air, but our energies didn't click, right? And so when we saw each other at IMEX, we walked right past each other and didn't say anything to each other. This is someone I spent 45 minutes of my life recording a podcast. And we just walked right past each other. And so that's what I mean by like being very intentional in the relationships that you build, and making sure you understand your personality, and also just understand the objectives you want to get out of those relationships. So that way it's smooth and it's not weird. And it's okay to walk away from certain relationships to say, hey, listen, you're cool. You probably have a lot that I can learn from, and you probably have a lot that you can offer from a business perspective, but I just know our personalities won't work. So nice to meet you, and see you around.
That's a great example, and it's just being authentic to yourself, right? Like just be who you are, and take general. This is what I just take general interest in knowing who that person is and what they're about. And trust me, we get it. I hear it from people like, oh, that guy is so annoying, or that person is so annoying. I know I'm just going to get harassed by them when I run into them. And it hurts just hearing it. So I generally just try to find interest in who the person is. And then it's just because it's interesting. And I always remember Carrie Smith from Event Marketers 15, 20 years ago saying, you want to be the guy that walks down the trade show row and gets hugs from people, not people seeing you down the row and wanting to, and then you see them go down the other aisle because they see you coming, right? And I took that for 20 years and ran with it, because you want to provide a value to the relationship, but you also want to be just genuinely liked, and you want to and have that just core relationship with someone.
Yeah. That's a great statement, Jeff. I've always found that. I mean, then there's some times that I don't recognize a person who comes up to me, and I feel terrible, and then but I'm as genuine as I possibly can when I say, like, oh my God, what was your name and where did we meet again? Like if I truly can't,
for sure,
I apologize, but I'm also like, oh my God, I want to remember you, and I want to also have an interest in you too. To your point, because I think that's.
How about this? You ever run into someone in our business life outside in the real world of life, and you're like, it just happened to me Friday night, actually. Kim Haney is the director of experiential for Pernod, and we did some work together 2 weeks ago at our experiential marketing leadership forum. Tavar, you should have been there. So we created a relation. We created a friendship. We got to know each other. And then Friday night, I was at an event in Stamford, Connecticut, a fundraising event, totally not thinking work in any way. And she was there, and she came up to me, and I'm like, blanked for a second. I'm like, wait, how do I know you? And she's like, I knew you were going to have trouble recognizing me in the different situation. And then, then it clicked. I'm like, oh my God, Kim. And then it was great. And that night we didn't talk one word about business. It was my wife was with me. It was a social event and it was awesome. But by the way, now we have such a deeper relationship when we come back to business and we talk. It was just a really cool moment.
Yeah. So before we keep going, I definitely want to give a shout out to some of the comments. Just keyword evolution. This is also panel networking approach hasn't evolved. If your networking approach hasn't evolved over the past 5 years, so much watch. Shout out to Kara. I think again, we're touching on these different ways that you are engaging with people in today's topic is definitely around just the return on relationships. And so I think what's super key about our show and what we always try to do is we want you to have these takeaways. And I think we've already delivered on at least 2. And that first is one, knowing yourself, but also writing down objectives of the type of relationships you want to build. Then Jeff dropped one of saying, hold on. I got it. Find interest in that person first. So, and that person that you want to build relationship, what are their interests? What do they like to do? As you think, I know a lot of us, we go to different events. We go, Jeff, you kind of are in a certain space where you see a lot of executives as well as Tavar, you do as well. Are there any other type of tools that you like to do so you can recognize or know, okay, I'm going to this event. I know so these people are going to be there. Do you build what I like to call is a face sheet to be like, all right, I know I'm gonna see these people before I get there. I'm mentally doing little nuggets about them. Not saying it's transactional, but it's your way to be on point in that moment. And I think this goes back to the relationship building. Is that a skill? Is that a kind of like a tactic you like to use when you're going into these networking spaces?
It's like the scene from Devil Wears Prada, where Miranda is at the event and he has the book, and I do it to an extent. Yeah, I do. Only because, going back to my personality, I know me. And I know if I over prepare in that sense, it will come out that I've over prepared. Right. So I do try to make sure I can put at least a face to a name, or at least a face to something that will help me remember them. Right. Like you said, Joe, I'm very quick to say, I'm so sorry, I forgot your name. I know your face, but I forgot your name, because I am very bad at names. And so I'm very upfront with that. So yeah, I do take a little bit of time to scope an attendee list, or check out LinkedIn's and just try to make a connection. But again, knowing my personality, I try not to over prepare.
Yeah, totally. I mean, LinkedIn is freaking powerful, right? I don't think people use it to the degree of power it has. And I love connecting the dots, right? So if I know I'm going into an event and I'm going to see Marcus, and I don't know too much about Marcus, but we've connected or whatever, and I'll go to Marcus's profile, and then I'll look at his connections, because if I see Marcus is connected to Joe or a couple of other friends and family of our network together, and you say, hey, I noticed you, this is so true. I mean, tell me not, is that LinkedIn connection a real connection, or just a you don't really know them connection? Because there's a million of those, right? And people admit right away, oh, no, I know Marcus, or I know Joe, or yeah, no, I've never met that person in my life. We just are connected on LinkedIn for some reason or another. Right. And there's a whole strategy to that. I mean, some people are really good at following up the connection on LinkedIn. I just, so much time in the day to there's only so much time in the day.
That's what's important. Some people kind of look at mine sometimes and go oh my God, did you just kind of spam connect all these people? And I truly did not. I've been in the realm of experiential, obviously in different capacities as a tour manager, a brand ambassador, or anything. But I built up that database of connections because I actually genuinely wanted to connect with all those people. Now, yes, are some of them, during COVID, it was a little bit of kind of a fire at the hip kind of thing, and be let's just connect with anyone. But it was really nice to develop those relationships. Marcus, you and I didn't meet for the longest time until I think Cannes last year, and yet we had been connected for a long time. So it's one of those testaments that I agree, Jeff. I don't think it's utilized as deeply as it should, and that's unfortunate too, because it's right here. It's free. You know what I mean? So,
in that same breath, are any of you specific or particular about who you connect with on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Like the programmer in another country halfway across the world that wants to connect with me for some robotic spam reason is not getting connected to my network.
I only recently have, not only recently, maybe the past 2 years, I've gotten a little bit more selective in who I connect with.
Yeah, for me, like it is definitely in where I sit in the industry, because I sit on the account side. I'm more likely to connect with people on the account side, as well as like talent partnerships and people that lead those divisions. And then also I'm starting to be like, if I go to job fairs and I like a table for our company or anything like that, I'm a little bit more open to letting the connected with some of the college and entry level students, so that's kind of the space I've been in, and those are the two pockets that I sit in today. But it definitely used to be a moment where I was just like, all right, boom, I'm trying to connect with many people. But now, like you said, over time, I'm valuing the relationships and I'm valuing the content that I'm putting out and who I'm associated with.
That's key. That's key right there, Marcus, is the value of the content. I've always said, like, when I go to South by and I do my thing where every morning I'm recapping what I saw. I mean, it is coming from like, I'm literally sitting down with a coffee and just being like, oh my God, this is what I felt like. I've had that. Actually, Jeff, it was after the Brand Innovators event just recently, a couple weeks ago, where Kim, Amy, and I and a few others went out to an activation that Netflix was doing with Fever for Squid Game. And I remember everyone coming out of the activation going, wow, it's been so long since I did it as like an actual attendee. And I was like, oh, see, you gotta take a step back sometimes and do it as a person that's actually in the industry and go through it. And it was just great. Like, it really built real relationship right there, because we all did it as like a group and together and as an attendee. So yeah, probably going off on a tangent on that, but that's just.
I was wondering where my invite was to that little group.
Okay, where you were.
No. In all fairness, I went to the Mets game that night.
I did want to address this question real quick. It says, do you filter your LinkedIn connections to weed out early connects that aren't relevant any longer? This came from Bill, who joins our show pretty often. So thank you, Bill, for dropping that question in. I'll pass it to Jeff.
No, Marcus, what do you do? Do you do it?
Yeah. I definitely, got to remove some connections, man. It's not a bad thing. It's just how you filter and what your approach. And can't apologize for that. Like, once you learn yourself, which is a gem we learned today, once you learn yourself and how you want to approach relationships, especially in your professional side, you can weed it out. And every friend on the other platforms doesn't need to be your friend on LinkedIn. It's, in that same way. Like, that's okay.
Yeah.
I've never done it, but now I'm thinking about it. I feel like it's like Gladiator. It's like.
well, Tavar, you ended up telling me when we first got coffee this a couple years ago. I remember asking you what made you be a recipient of my invite to say let's go get coffee, and you were like, it was more of just this genuine approach that it was, and that is part of the weeding out process. Is if someone comes in guns blazing and saying like, what can we do to work together automatically? There's almost that element of like, well, just hey, give it a rest.
Well, I think LinkedIn does a lot of that for you, right? Like, your profile will show you the work that you do and your expertise and the things that you like and you comment. I can tell where you're coming from just by looking at your LinkedIn profile. So if you reach out to me leading with that, it's a bit, for me, it's off-putting, because it's like I can tell, like, you don't need to lead with that. I see your profile. So yeah, when you reach out, and to be honest with you, if you ask anyone who has sat down with me or who I've taken an appointment with or I've taken a meeting with or whatever, they'll tell you that they don't lead with business. They lead with, hey, Tavar, would love to connect, and I'm just like, cool, let's chat, But if you lead with like a PDF and like outlining, like, I'm just like, you've lost me at hello, unfortunately, which is the opposite of the Beyonce song.
I was just thinking about the quality versus quantity of the connections you make at an event, right? In an event, a live event, let's just say a nighttime networking event, it's like, let's focus on the quality of the people you're hanging out with versus how many people can I talk to at this dinner, right? Or at this networking event. And that's a challenge within our community here at Brand Innovators, because they want that return on investment, but they also want the return on relationship. So you have to balance, you see the guys looking over their shoulder, they're talking right to you, and you're like, come on, man, focus here. I see you looking away.
Yeah.
And then, so quality versus quantity, and then also the actual event, creating experiences to create engagement, right? So we had Beth from Under Armour at an event for us. She was on stage, and the first thing she did to kick it off and open up was she created an experience with the crowd, and she said, everybody open up your phone and open up your photo album, and she's like, this could be dangerous, but let's go with it, and flip to the first picture that makes you smile, and then turn to the left or right of you and share that picture with the person next to you. What that did was create an instant connection, because you then explained, oh, this was me and my son at the Mets game beating the Phillies, and we were celebrating. And now that person knows I'm a Mets fan. They know I have a son. And it was awesome. Like, it was just so cool of a way to get everyone in the room connected. And then later at dinner, you saw that person, and now you had something to talk about, to go deeper into that picture of their dog that makes them smile and things. It was just really cool. And it gave that quality and quantity equation.
There's a story to tell, man.
Yeah,
It is.
if there's anything else that I would add to, like, quality over quantity, it's, I think recently I've stopped being impressed by how many followers you have on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to realize this, but like, if I no longer, I used to be that person where I go to someone's profile and then I immediately go to see how many followers they have. But I stopped paying attention to that. And what matters more to me is what you're posting, what you're liking, what you're commenting on, and how many people are reacting to your posts. I think that matters more to me than anything. It's like, how much engagement do you have within your page or around your page versus how many people are following you. So that's a tip that I would leave for people, is like, don't get too caught up in like following the people that have the most followers or whatever the case may be, because some people by default are going to have high followers based off of the brands that they're affiliated with, based off of how long they've been in the industry, how often they speak. But that doesn't mean that there are people that have less followers that are not as impactful. So I would not get too frightened by the follower stuff.
I love that. I mean, Marcus, I don't mean to jump ahead or anything. I wanted to ask this question that has been on my mind for almost all summer, and I've been trying to ask it to various people. But now that we're kind of coming up on the end of the year, this is the best question to ask. And you guys are the first ones for, like, as a guest to ask, because I'm going to do it in November and December. Everyone keeps going, what are the event trends to know? That's it. Every year, event trends, right? And that's great. Trends are great. You can set them and you can follow them. You can do whatever. But I'm going to ask, what is the emotions to watch for in 2025? What emotions do you find to be the most impactful, or the ones that are evoked the most through an event or an experience that you find to be pertinent toward you? And so I asked that.
Yo, Joe, this wasn't on the prep question list.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. Go for it, Tavar.
Yeah, there's two. The first one I think is going to be anxiety, especially coming out of an election year. I think a lot of people are going to you're going to find a lot of people carrying their life with them to events, because they're coming out of an election year, and depending on which way it swings, it's going to impact people differently, yada, yada, yada. And it's going to take people a while to kind of get comfortable with that. So I think that the more that brands and experiences can find pockets of comfort for people to deal with that anxiety will be great. And I think the second one, and I posted about this on one of my 4 things on a Friday, is ease of enjoyment. And that is, how easy is it for people to enjoy an event? How easy is it for you to enjoy the content? How easy is it for you to navigate the event? How easy is it for you to just enjoy the overall experience? Or are there things that have to happen to get you to that point of enjoyment, right? I think that's something I'm always looking for when I go to an event, for myself at least. It's like, do I walk into this event and instantly, boom, I feel it? Or did I have to walk into the event and attend a session, have a meal, shake a few hands, take some time to digest it, and then it started to feel good? That is something I'm going to be looking for a lot next year, to see how organizers are doing a better job at making sure that it clicks a little bit more instantly, regardless of your personality, regardless of your background, that you are able to walk into an event and that ease of enjoyment is smooth. I think that's what a lot of people have struggled with, and that we don't talk about enough. It's like the introverts, for example, like, right? We're always planning events around people that have big personalities and quick and ready to shake hands and all that stuff, but we're not really thinking about the introverts, that sometimes they take a little longer to get there, right? So what are we doing to help them get there? So I call it ease of enjoyment.
That's awesome. The emotions, the adjectives that are coming to mind, like open-minded, right? For 2025, the big thing around even within my own family, and I have teenagers, is just positivity, right? Like, in the experiential industry, probably all of us, we're a little jaded, right, from all the events we've been to. So the first thing we can do is go into an event and start picking apart what's wrong with the event. And I could do that at a restaurant. I could do that at a car dealership. I could do that everywhere. And I'm telling you, my wife has pointed it out. She's like, can you have a little positivity first before you start breaking it down and how to fix it? And so positivity. And the other thing is a big theme around myself, my family, conscious effort, right? Like being present and having that conscious effort in 2025 of what you're actually working on versus being scattered across way too many things.
Yep. Love that.
I love that. Joe?
Well, yeah, I have to answer my own question.
Nice try, Joe.
I forgot about that. It's funny. I've always said nostalgia. Like I remember reading or writing a little memoir about the 4 emotions that I found to be the most powerful across any of my travels. And nostalgia tends to be one that always keeps popping up. And I don't mean it from like, oh my God, let me go to this Hulu experience and there's a 90s themed nostalgic activation going on. Like that's great. That is nostalgia being evoked. But I mean just the different senses that we have when we go through something. Tavar, to your point of like, what are you feeling when you're going through an event? Or Jeff, like, am I judging this thing before I'm even actually partaking in it? What are the senses I'm allowing to happen, whether it's technical or vision or anything? What's going on, and how does it tie back to maybe there's something nostalgic there, and really taking the moment to like reflect on it. And I think that's a powerful emotion, and one that's always going to be evoked and always going to be utilized. So I'd say nostalgia, and then the other, I'd like to see fear be used a little bit more, because when fear is actually utilized correctly, something amazing can come out on the other end.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what I've always said is
Sure.
fear is a negative by connotation is negative, but if you switch it to the positive reaction that can happen afterwards, it's pretty transformative. So that's my other.
Yeah, I love that. We got some
Whoa, did Marcus answer the
Marcus,
question?
you don't get to get out of this.
Nice try.
Try to slide out of that one. Well, so I think like one thing that I kind of focus on a lot, and I push my team on too, is not using the term FOMO. And that came from Kim. That interest that on our previous, when we had a guest on, that she said that the Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they're not interested in FOMO. Like they don't want to have FOMO. They want to be like, oh, okay, I'm included. So inclusivity, removing the term and using the term FOMO where people want to be a part of it. Now we're creating anxiety around our ideas versus it being a place of belonging as well as inclusivity. So you can attend, you can be invited. It may be a barrier to entry, but the entry is still low enough where you can still attend. But I did not make you feel like it was FOMO. So that's what I'm trying to continue to work to get out of the system. and how we position things. Still, I want things to be great and amazing and drive excitement, but I don't want it to feel FOMO. And FOMO induced is a term that I'm continuing to work through and remove from the vocab of the team. But I think happiness is another one, and I like how we all have mentioned that, and just joy. And Jeff, like you, sometimes I do walk into a space, I'm like, they could change that, or they're missing this touch point. But it's also like recognizing as an industry the effort that it takes to put on these ideas and these events and pop them up and get them going. We know that it's either you're mad dashing for 6 weeks, or you truly do have your full 6 months or 4 months to put an idea together and bring it to life. So I think just working on approaching events and experiences from an open standpoint and recognizing the effort. I went to the Justin Timberlake show, and I'm watching the show, but then I start seeing the graphics and I'm like, dang, that's cool. How they do that? Like, I'm going to research. So I'm excited to see how they did it. And I'm not even nitpicking it. I thought it was fly, but I'm just like, all right, how did he do that? What is the kind of process? So taking more joy and finding joy into how the ideas are being put together. It's all subjective. I think like those are the two things that I am just being more aware of in 2025 from an emotion standpoint.
I'm practicing that too. I'm practicing enjoying what things are.
Yeah.
You don't need to always have an opinion. And if you have that mindset going into it, 9 times out of 10, you will find something. So it's like, just go into it and enjoy it as it is. And you find so much more joy when you do it that way. So I'm right there with you. I'm definitely trying to get better at that.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing. And I mean, you guys, this has been great. I want to be cognizant of the time because I know, Jeff, you mentioned you have to kind of jump. And Tavar, I don't know, something just happened on my end that I don't see Tavar anymore.
We lost him.
We did.
We lost Tavar.
He just peaced out.
Yeah, and I know so as we kind of, and Tavar come back on and we'll make sure we close him out as well. But Jeff, if you don't mind just closing, just kind of saying goodbye to everyone, let them know some things you have going on, how they can connect with you, and what are other things that are going on with your company and whatever you want to share. So it's the perfect time to do that.
Yeah, I won't sell it too much, guys, but I appreciate the time. This was fun. Let's do it again. The community you're building with this is fun as well. Brand innovators. So we are doing over 100 plus events a year. Our community continues to grow. The experiential vertical within the brand innovators community continues to grow. We're producing more and more events for the experiential community. We just did the Experiential Marketing Leadership Forum 2 weeks ago during Ad Week in New York City. We will be doing brand activation summits. We're going to be at Super Bowls, Cannes, South by, all across the board. So if you're interested in coming into this community, just reach out. And I'd love to connect with everyone. But I really appreciate the time, guys. And thank you. And I'll talk to you guys soon enough.
Thanks,
Cool.
Jeff.
Thanks,
Tavar, I know you got kicked out, but I'm glad you're back. I don't know what happened.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. I feel like that was personal. It's all good. No, I'm joking.
Having a live show, but wanted to allow you to close it out, let people know what you have going on, a way they can connect with you as well.
Yeah, I just joined Boom Pop as vice president, and I encourage you, if you haven't checked us out, to check us out and hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm happy to do a discovery with you or just talk about it. But we're really re-evolutionizing the way that we approach an all-in-one solution for events. So we have a full-service events team, which I oversee, which is 30-plus planners that manage events across the globe, and then we also have an all-in-one product that does everything from manage your events straight through our AI planner, which I'll just give you a brief, quick 10-second overview of what that looks like. So pretty much, if you are a planner or even a person that plans events and you're not technically a planner, you can go into our platform and literally type, I want to plan an event for 10 people in 2025 in the summer around wellness. And the platform will literally pick a few hotels for you or pick a few venues. It will set up an entire itinerary, set up activities, and give you a budget, all within seconds. which is a game changer for our industry. And I can tell you, as a 15-year plus event planner, I personally have not seen something like this that does everything in one spot. So more to come. I'm excited to be on this journey with Boom Pop. And if you want more information, just reach out.
Cool.
Thanks, guys. I got to jump. See ya.
Peace. Well, thank you all for joining. And Tavar, thank you for that, because I went onto the website and I kind of started putting some ideas in there. So check it out. But Joe and I are grateful that you all joined today. Thank you for everyone from around the U.S. And globally that have joined today's conversation, Evolution of Engagement. Stay tuned. November show is dropping very, very soon. We're working through what that's going to be, and we're super excited about our 1-year celebration that will be in December as we wrap the entire year. So when we say wrap, that means we will talk about every single big moment, trends in 2025. So everything you have seen across the from an event standpoint, experience standpoint, partnerships, kind of like those really hard-hitting ones. It's like our take on kind of an end of the year, standing at New Year's in Times Square kind of thing, where we talk about just the big moments. So be on the lookout for that for December. Joe, I hope I kind of amped that up for us really good.
Look, it's going to be amazing. And at the same time, it's fun. So, I think at the end of the day, we all just have to remember this is fun. This is a fun thing that we do. So appreciate both of them for joining tomorrow. Thank you. And Marcus, let's keep this rolling. So
anytime, fellas, anytime.
Thank you. All right. Peace, everyone. Thank you again.